Alright guys, so today we're going to be discussing creating the engine and the engine options. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to define a few variables, and the first variable we need is a private, and we're going to be using a bound camera. And basically what the bound camera is a camera that allows us to set the bounds so it can't move further than a specific bound that we set. So we're going to do private bound camera, and we're just going to call it camera. Alright, so just hover over this and import it. There you go. Alright, and the second thing we need to do is we need to define our width and height of our game scene, and it's going to be private width, and the width is going to be set to 800, and the height is going to be 480. And basically this is like a default AndEngine it's like a default Android resolution is 800 by 480. That's usually what most devices typically support, so that's what we're going to be supporting. That's what most games support, and I encourage you to support that in your future projects. So we want to make these integers, or actually we want to make them floats, so just type float here and float here. Alright, second thing we need to do is we need to override a method because we want to create a custom engine. We want to use a limited FPS engine, and what this is basically it allows us to set the frames per second that we want to use, so that way our game can run the same on all devices. So what we're going to do is we want to do @override and we want to do a public engine on create engine, and then as parameters we need engine options and engine options, and enter. Alright, and we want to simply return a engine type, and the engine type we want to return is a new limited FPS engine, and in parentheses it takes two arguments, and the first argument is the engine options that we pass to it, and the second option is the frames per second we want to set, and usually typically is 60, so we're just going to set 60 there and put a semicolon, and we make sure we import the limited FPS engine, import that, and make sure you import the engine. Just hover over that and go to Android, the org.AndEngine engine, import that. Alright, so there we go, we have our engine object set up, and the second thing we need to do is go ahead and create our engine options itself. So to do that, you just simply need to type engine options equals new, and you just go ahead and enter, start a new line, and just type in engine options, and the first variable is going to be true, which is updating. Second is screen orientation, and we're going to be working in landscape mode, so we could just set this to landscape fixed. If we did censored, that means the user can flip our game upside down and the game will still work, but we could just use fixed for now. Second thing we need is we need the resolution policy, and if you read on the AndEngine basic concepts, I posted a link, and that link basically it gave you guys all the information on the different resolution policies, engines, entities, all that good stuff, all the basics that you need to know. So the next thing we need is we need to pass it the new fill resolution policy, and then pass it the camera. Alright, so the fill resolution policy is a resolution policy that fills the entire screen, so it stretches the game. So instead of putting black bars or something beside your game to make it fit the screen, fill resolution stretches your game, so it stretches your game to fit all of the resolutions and devices. So the only thing you have to worry about is a little bit of scaling issues, so always try to use the highest possible graphics possible, so that way when it's scaled up, or scale down, it'll look good. So, but I definitely recommend you guys use the fill resolution policy on all your projects. So now we just want to simply go ahead and do engine options and get audio options, because we're going to need some music, and do set needs music to true and set needs sound to true, just like that. And for wake lock, we can go ahead and do wake lock too. Just do engine. Actually, we can leave this alone for now. We can do that later. So now what we're going to do is we need to return the engine option. So we need to do engine option return, and we need to return this object here. So now you just do engine options. All right. And there's one more thing we need to do. We need to go ahead and declare our camera and set up our camera. So to do that, you simply just go ahead and declare it here. So you can do camera equals new bound camera, and set this to 0, 0 is position, and the width is going to be the width that we provided above, and the height. All right, so there we go, guys. We just created our engine options, and we just created our new engine. So that's basically it. Pretty simple with creating engine options and engines. So one thing you want to make sure you do is the camera, since we're making a 2D scrolling game, we're going to be using a bound camera, and because we need to set bounds for our camera so the camera won't go off the scene, and it'll be a mess if we use a regular camera. But with the bounds camera, we can actually set bounds, and we can use those bounds to keep our player in bounds, keep the camera focused on specific points, and so forth and so on. So that's it for creating engines and engine options. In the next section, we'll be starting creating our resource manager and starting to dive into some of the goodies of this entire process.